Okay, now let's get started. What actually the JavaScript is? So let me write something here. What is a JavaScript? So generally speaking, what do you call JavaScript is a programming language which is used to create some interactive effects within the browser. Okay, of course, this kind of definition no longer valids nowadays. Why? Because let's go for this first one. So JavaScript is a programming language used to create interactive behaviors within the browser. Within the browser. Okay, this is generally speaking, this is kind of a definition that has been given by the people. Okay, uh, unfortunately, because of the popularity of JavaScript, because of the powerfulness of the power of JavaScript. Okay, so this kind of definition is not going to sufficient in nowadays. Why? Because JavaScript is not only going to be executed inside the browser, it is going to be executed inside the operating system also. So we can run the JavaScript anywhere in the computer. Okay, so let's get started. What actually the JavaScript is? Let me give some point regarding the JavaScript. So we can find something like JavaScript is a generally JavaScript. What is this script? Some people say scripting language. Okay, JavaScript is a scripting language. Now let us see what actually is a scripting language, and let me write what other things that we have to know regarding JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting language. JavaScript is a dynamic language. I think you have been hearing this kind of words from the past, right? So JavaScript is a scripting language. JavaScript is a dynamic language. JavaScript is an interpreter language. Okay, JavaScript is a client-side language. Of course, this is I'm going to oppose this kind of word. Okay, instead, it's global language. I can say not only client-side, we can run inside server also. Okay, next, JavaScript is something like uh, imperative. It's I can say multi-paradigm. JavaScript is a multi-paradigm. Okay, I'll explain this one. We need to discuss a lot of things regarding this. So let us clear what are all these things. Okay. Now, what is a scripting language? How it's going to differ with other languages? Okay, we know C language is a procedure language, procedure-oriented language. Okay, and Java is a object-oriented language. Now, what is this scripting language? PHP is a scripting language. Python is a scripting language. JavaScript is a scripting language. What do you mean by scripting language? So, scripting language means uh, a language which consists of a sequence of commands instead of simple instructions. Okay, which consists of of a series of commands. Okay, within a file, and that is capable to language consists of sorry consists series of commands within a file, and that is capable of being executed without compile. Capable of being without being compiled. Okay. So scripting languages are something like that, which is has a feature that we can directly run the programming language, okay, without compiling it. See, generally, when you consider the C language, we need to compile the C language first, and then we are going to execute it, right? Similarly, in the case of Java. But whereas in coming to this particular JavaScript, okay, we have a sequence of commands. Why? Because JavaScript is a very high level language. Okay, each instruction, each command, I can say here, this is a scripting language. So each command in JavaScript is internally has multiple instructions. Okay, when you look into the mission code, it has a lot of things need to be converted. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is, see, let me give a simple example for this. DOS, right? Disk operating system. What was that? CMD. We just go for command, right? See, this is called command prompt. This is I'm going to run some programs inside disk operating system, DOS operating system. So, for example, HELP. What is this help? It's a kind of command used in disk operating system, right? It's a command. It's not an instruction. A command, again, internally contains some sequence of instructions of different kinds of languages. So here what I'm doing is, when I hit it, it's going to execute and it's trying to print some content on the screen. So we call such, if you try to write such type of commands in a file, let me take a file first of all. Notepad. I think you know about some DOS commands, so I just directly go for that. So for example, let me do one thing. Just come back to C drive. Okay, clear this. Uh, in C drive, I don't have a folder name with something like, what I can go for this, something like Hitman. Okay, let's go for this one. See, I'm just creating this one. So in order to create a folder, you have to use a command md. What is it? Spider-Man, something like Spider-Man. Now you can see it's automatically created here. See, Spider-Man got created. Now I'm going to delete it. Okay. So again, run this one. You can find the Spider-Man folder here. See, observe here. When I hit it, see, it's automatically created. If you want to open that folder inside this command prompt, use cd Spider-Man. All these are commands. Okay. So now I was in Spider-Man folder. Okay. Let me open that one. So nothing is there inside of it, right? I just want to create one file, notepad, or something like hello.txt. You want to create, it's trying to um, asking some permission, so I just hit it. See, one file got created. So let me write hello world. Save this one, close this. See, open this. Just got created, right? Now you can observe this. These are called sequence of commands. MD, CD, Notepad. All these are commands given to your DOS operating system. And I just want to remove this Spider-Man now. And by the way, you need to come out of this one with the backslash. Just remove this one. Got it? Come back. Now, what I'm going to do now is, let me create a notepad file. Notepad. uh, my PRG, or yeah, uh, something like my file dot bat. I'm using a bat file extension. Bat means batch file. BATCH. This is called batch file programming. Okay, when you are going to mix up all these DOS commands, okay, then it will become a batch file programming. Now I can see, of course, batch file, it contains a lot more. What I'm going to do, I just want to copy all these things, something like MD Spider-Man CD Spider-Man. Okay, and after that, that means you just change it to this folder, Notepad hello dot txt. That's it. Spiders.txt, something like that. Just save this. Of course, I think it's not got saved. It's not saved. Anyway, I just wanna save this one again. Inside the C structure. Let's try with this. Spider.bat. I'm going to do it like this. See, you don't have permissions to whatever. I think it's what do you call it? My Windows 7 is opposing this one, right? I need some commands. Anyway, I just want to close this one. Okay, take this one, close this one. Just create a new folder. Oops. ID. Let me create a new file. Text file. Spider bat. Yeah. Okay. All right, like that. Edit it. Paste it. Save this one and cut it and place it inside. Yeah. Now the permissions. Now you can see a spider.bat is there. Okay. It contains a sequence of commands. If you want to see this, you have a sequence of commands. When I run this, it automatically create the Spider-Man folder. Inside that, it will create hello.txt. See, it just created a Spider-Man. Right? If you say yes, go here, spider.txt will create. So what I'm trying to say here is, with the help of batch scripting, this is called batch file scripting. I'm using a word scripting. Scripting means which includes a sequence of commands like this. These are the commands. Okay, so each one is a command in DOS prompt, right? So similarly, okay, in JavaScript also, each and every instruction is referred as a command. Okay, so that it is capable to see. Here, I'm not performing any kind of compilation now, right? I'm directly executing it, right? So similarly, all the instructions or all the commands of JavaScript are which are going to execute without being compiled. Okay, that is called a scripting language. Hope you understand this one. Okay, what actually the scripting language is. Some of the examples are, you know, Python, PHP, JavaScript. All these comes under this scripting language only. Okay, right. So JavaScript is a dynamic language. What do you mean by dynamic language? What do you mean by static language? Okay, so let us discuss something like, mm, you know, inside, oh, for example, in C language or Java, if you know any one of these, okay, if you want to create a variable, you just use a data type, int a. Okay, in some languages we use int a. What it refers? A is a kind of variable, okay, which is of integer type. That means A is a memory location which will store only integer numbers. If I change this to character, okay, so A is a memory location which will store only characters. Likewise, string. In Java, we have a string data type. Okay, A is a data type. A is a variable which is going to store only string values. Okay, but in case of JavaScript, we use a simple word var. In order to create a variable, we use a simple variable. A var keyword. Okay, let us find the difference. So I told you already, in int A, you have to store only integer numbers. So storing a 10 is a valid thing. It's a correct one. Okay. If I'm trying to store a character, this is invalid. Correct? So invalid in the sense that particular language is not going to accept this kind of assignment. Why? Because A is designed to store only integer values. A is created to store only integer values. Whereas in JavaScript, if I take here, I'm not specifying any data type here. Simply, I'm using a word, a command var. Okay, so here I can store a value of integer. I can store a character. I can store a string also. See, the behavior of this variable is dynamically changing, right? Okay, it's not prefixed, it's not predetermined. Why? Because in this case it's already determined. So we are saying that a should only store only integer values. This is this kind of nature is called static nature. This kind of nature, see, a is, we don't know what type of a it is, but we are able to store an integer value, a character value, and a string value, so that a variable is dynamically changing its behavior, right? So this is one kind of example that will belongs to this dynamic language. Okay, so that is why JavaScript is a dynamic language. Of course, we have a lot of examples that we'll see in the code structure as we go through on. Okay, let me define this one. So dynamic language in the sense, uh, a dynamic language language which is capable executing many behaviors, programming behaviors at runtime, is referred as something like, uh, for example, uh, adding new code. Just you can dynamically add a new kind of code. Okay, you can extending objects. Okay, definitions, you can extend the definitions. That means a variable definition can be extended, that can be stored integer, string, and character, or any kind of data, right? So we can extend the definitions or modifying, extending or modifying objects and definitions. Of course, we can refer a lot of definitions, type system words. So time system means just I have showed you like what do we call? One second, please. Sorry. So right where I am. Yeah. So a dynamic language is a language which is capable of executing normal behaviors, the general behaviors of the program language at runtime is generally referred as a dynamic language. For example, we can add a new code dynamically at the runtime, and we can change the behavior of the objects and definitions of the type system. Type system in the sense, what type of the type system in the sense we are going to define the type of the variable, we are going to define the type of the functions, okay, something like that. So that we are going to change that, we are going to change or modify the definition of the type system. Okay, so that is what we can call dynamic language. Okay, next one is interpreter language. I told you compiled versus interpreter language. Compiled versus interpreter language. Let us see what is an interpreter language first of all. You know, in compiled oriented language, uh, I can take like this. Okay, so a program. Sorry. Oh, or again, how do I define this one? Always the program is going to be uh, processed by translated to machine code related to mission specific code, a simply mission code, that is mission code, by using a software called compiler. You know, I think you heard about this one, C compiler, Java compiler, something like this. So always a program is going to be translated. So what is the duty of the compiler actually? In order to convert the high level language program into low level language syntax. So here also, in compiled languages, a compiler is a software which will translate the actual program into machine code. That means ones and zeros. Okay. Example for this one is, you know, C, C++, Java, something like that. Okay. Whereas in coming to the interpreted language, each and every instruction, each and every instruction will translate individually. I can say that will be fine. So what I'm trying to say is here the entire program is going to be translated in compiled language, whereas in the interpreted language, uh, the computer will take one instruction of the program and that will be converted into machine code. Okay, and then it's going to interpret it. Okay, so interpretation means it's going to understand each and every instruction, instruction by instruction. Okay, whereas in compile oriented language, before execution of the program, there will be a process called compilation, which will convert all the program into what do we call it? Uh, what do you call ones and zeros. Okay, the best example that you know in C language, I think, do you have any idea about C language? Let me show that one also. Interesting, I think. About C language. Let's go for something like see, I just want to open a new file now. I think you have seen such kind of environment in your school days. Okay, so hash include stdio.hash. I just want to print out hello world, something like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just let me run this program. See, no errors is there. That's good. Now let me see them. And I just want to use something like I think I need to use one more thing. Okay, um, I can see that. So I got output hello world. Okay, now I just want to intentionally, I would just want to place some errors here. Okay, so instead of CLRS here, I'm using this one. Two errors I just placed. Okay, when I run this program, see, this entire program got compiled and I got two errors here at the same time. This is one example. See, uh, you are able to see all the errors at same time, right? That means entire program got compiled and the entire program has been translated to machine code. That is not a translated, of course, because of errors, not a translated, but the compiler software has gone through all the code. That is why you're able to see different types of errors in different locations, right? Correct? So let me clear this one. Okay, let me run this again. You have only one error. So the advantage of this compiled language is you are able to fix what are the syntactical errors and what is some kind of um, um, any such kind of errors or type definitions are there. Okay, type errors. We can immediately recognize and we can solve all the errors at a time, and we'll go into the program, right? Whereas coming to the JavaScript, okay, this is what is called compiled oriented language, C language. Okay, probably you're not able to see the full screen. Okay, so I just want to turn off the screen and I'll load it again. I hope you are able to see the full screen. Is it okay, Andy? Right. So now, what is JavaScript? Now let's go for JavaScript. Now do something. Press F12 on the keyboard. Okay. I just want to write. Don't worry about the program I'm going to write here. Okay. This is a simple JavaScript program. We will do all these things later on. So I just created a variable. I just want to have stored a value 10 inside of it. Okay. And I want to take one more variable will be equal to 20. Now I want to print something like a plus b, or take another variable z equal to a plus b, and try to print that one. Console.log. Of course, I was there inside the console only. No need to use this console.log, but for better understanding purpose, I'm going to use this one. Okay, share. Hit it. I got a value of 30. That's fine, right? Let me make some changes inside of it. Okay, I'll do one thing. Var a is equal to 10. Var b is equal to 10. Var z is equal to uh, a plus b. Console.log of z is equal to plus z. Now let's see. Now I got a 10 plus 10, 20, right? Now I'm going to place some errors intentionally, just like I did in the C program. Okay, now observe this one. So instead of var, I forgot. Okay, let's go for this one. I forgot a value. Instead of console, I forgot to mention oh here. Okay, now let me run this program. How many errors that you have? Two errors. Generally, you should find we expect two errors at the same time in compiled oriented language, right? Just like in the C language, we expected two errors, but this is interpreted language. It's not like that. See, we got only one error, that is locating it line number 2, this one, and the program got terminated. Got it? See, if you observed in C language, the compiler software will go through all the program, and it will catch up all the errors, and it will display it on the monitor. Okay. Whereas in this interpreted language, just like JavaScript, it won't go to all the program. It will take one instruction at a time, and it will encounter that particular, it will interpret that particular instruction. Whether it is fine, then it is going to execute the instruction, and according to that, it display the output, or according to that, it will process to the next instruction. Okay. Now here we got an error in the second line. So JavaScript software got interpreted this particular instruction, but it finds some errors. So immediately what it did is it simply throw an error and simply terminate the program. So let me fix this one. Actually, even though we have two errors here, but it is an interpreted language. That means only one instruction will take at a time, and it's going to be executed. Okay. If instruction is not a valid instruction, then it will stop execution. So this won't be come into the eyes of the what you call JavaScript engine. Okay, so a JavaScript software, I can say. I'm going to fix this one. Now you can see, again run this program. You got a new different type of error now in line number 4. That means this was interpreted by the JavaScript. Why? Because this is a valid instruction. Okay, and it's navigated to the next one, and navigated to the next one. But unfortunately, the last instruction is has some kind of error is there. See, you have some unexpected identifier. JavaScript doesn't know about such kind of word, VR. It know about VAR, right? So that is why it shows unexpected identifier. Whereas in this case, you're getting different type of error. That is, console is not defined. JavaScript is assuming that console is a variable. Okay, so that is why it's showing such kind of variable error like this. So I hope you understand. See, in interpreted language, only one instruction will be executed at a time, or interpreted at a time. So that at the interpretation time, it will look after the syntax of the instruction. If the syntax is valid, then it will go and execute the instruction. Whereas in compiled oriented language, before execution, all the code will go through what is called syntax validity. Syntax validated in the sense it will it will look after all the syntax what we have written. Syntax in the sense the naming convention what we are going to use, or the naming style. See, syntax in the sense what do you know, no spelling mistakes, I can say, in grammar in English language. No spelling mistakes. Similarly, here we have some spelling mistake in computer language, JavaScript language. Got it? In C language, we catch up all the errors at the same time, whereas in JavaScript, that is interpreted language, we are catching only one instruction at a time, or only one error at a time. That is the difference between compiled oriented language and interpreted language. Got it? Hope you understand this one. Be patient. A lot of things are there. I'll discuss in this one. Right. Now, client side. JavaScript is a client side language. Okay. So, but nowadays JavaScript is a global language. Why? Because JavaScript can be, I can write it, JavaScript. Okay. Let us talk about the client side. Client side. So, what is the host environment of the JavaScript in client side? Host environment. For any language, if I'm talking about the client side, means the host environment is browser. Got it? Okay. JavaScript is the only language which will execute inside the browser. Whereas when you look after the C language, or C++, or Java, Python, all these things are going to be executed inside the operating system, not inside the browser. So if any language which is going to be executed inside the browser, then we refer it as a client-side language. Okay. So JavaScript has the capacity to which will run the program inside the browsers also. Okay. So in the past, the people got assumed that JavaScript is a language which will execute only inside the browser. But what happens is nowadays JavaScript is server side also. Server side meant nothing but we run some operating systems inside the server side, right? It might be Windows NT, Windows something like Linux environments, something like that. So a host environment is operating system. If any language which is going to be run inside the operating system, then we can call it as a backend language or server-side language. We use the words like this, right? Backend. Here, or front-end language. Okay. How does this language is going to be executed inside the browser? Okay. Every browser has a software we refer as JavaScript engine. Okay. Inside the browser, we have a software called JavaScript engine. I think software inside browser. To run a JavaScript program, definitely you need an interpreter, right? Okay, that we call it as JavaScript engine. Interpreter is a software which is going to run your JavaScript program inside your browser. Okay, so first one, yeah, host environment is the browser, and the software inside the browser is JavaScript runtime environment. In Google Chrome, there are different types of, see, this kind of interpreter is vendor dependent. Okay, that is why your front-end application need to be checked in all the browsers. Why? Because the JavaScript engine is different in different browsers. Okay, for example, uh, Chrome. If I look after the Chrome, you can find a JavaScript engine software like Google V8 engine. This is the name of the interpreter or JavaScript engine. Of course, this is more than interpreter. So Google V8 engine is a software which will reside inside the Google Chrome in order to execute your JavaScript programs. Okay, Firefox. You have a spider monkey. Sorry, not, I think spider monkey. Okay. In if you go for IE, Internet Explorer, we have a chakra. Okay. If you go for Safari, you have something called um, Rhino or Nitro engine, I think. Probably Rhino. I think latest one is Nitro engine, something like that. Okay. So these are the different. Of course, I don't know about the remaining kind of browsers. Okay. So these are the software that will reside in each and every browser. Because of these, we are able to run our JavaScript programs inside our browser. Hope you understand. Always remember, we are running a Google V8 engine inside the Google Chrome, Spider Monkey inside the Firefox. Got it? So, what we call these are Kavya Garu. I'll talk about the what do you call ECMAScript 6, EC6. Okay, EC5. What is an EC5 and what is an EC6? I will talk about it later on by the completion of this one. Okay. Uh, that is a standard. EC6 and EC5 are standards. These are the software that will reside inside your browser. Okay. Because of these, we are able to run our JavaScript program. And whereas what is the hosting environment here in server side? Operating system. So you need a software just like a Google V8 engine, a Spider Monkey, or just like Java compiler. We need a software to run our JavaScript program. There comes Node.js. Remember, Node.js is not a programming language; it's a platform. Just like I think you heard about JRE, Java Runtime Environment. Node.js is also a platform. That means JavaScript runtime environment, I can say. All these are called JREs or JSREs, I can say. JavaScript runtime environments. Okay. So this is what you call Node.js is, of course, more than the runtime environment. It has a lot of libraries. All these things has been included in this Node.js. Okay. But because of this software, we are able to run your JavaScript program inside the operating system. So you can run your JavaScript program inside the browser as well as the operating system. That means both you can use JavaScript inside the front end technologies as well as the back end technologies. Then I can point something like I don't have star, right? I have star. So what I can say, JavaScript is a global language. Global language. You can use it in anywhere, and it's a very powerful language. Okay. Why? Because see, you can find this from JavaScript inside your operating system, inside the browsers, inside the SAP modules. SAP module, SAP, right? SAP modules. You can use as a JavaScript. You can use some electronics kind of things. I don't know probably. Okay. There also we use JavaScript. NASA is also using JavaScript. Okay. Everywhere. JavaScript is everywhere. If you learn JavaScript properly with some what do you call them? Best fun what is it, in-depth fundamentals, okay, you can fit to any kind of environment. This is a global language. I hope there is no such kind of language which can support in all the what do you call areas and browser and server side also. Okay, there is no such language, right? Okay, that is about the client side, oh sorry, global language, client side versus server side language, right? I still want to continue. If anyone got feel bored, please let me know. Right. So what is multi-paradigm? What is a paradigm? I can say paradigm. Okay. It's a paradigm. Paradigm is a model, I can say. Okay, it's a way of constructing a language. It's a way of defining a language. It's a model. Okay, what type of paradigms that we have? Okay, so I'm talking. Of course, we have a plenty of paradigms are there, but I'm not going to refer like that. Like structural language, procedural language, modular language, object-oriented language, functional language, something like that. Imperative, declarative, something like that. You know, HTML is a declarative language. We just declare the statements. We're not going to bother about whether it's correct or not. Okay, we just declare the statement. That is declarative language. Of course, JavaScript is not a declarative. It's a imperative language. These are very important things. From these kind of things, the people are they are going to bring out some a new type of frameworks, React JS and Angular JS and some kind of JS, something like that. Okay, imperative language. JavaScript is an imperative language, and what I can say, JavaScript is what more than that. Object-oriented language. Object-oriented language. JavaScript is a functional language. Okay, something like that. We define three kinds of. I think one more thing is there. I'm not getting anyway. So when you come into this imperative language, okay, the program flow, the program has been constructed with what do you call it? Or you can find some statements like if else statements, all those things. Okay, okay. If any programming language that uses such type of statements, and that is going to be change the program state. Okay, program state in the sense we are using some for loops and if else conditions, something like functional what do you call functions, all these things, right? So such kind of things that we call as imperative languages. If we try to change the program state by using some kind of statements, then we can call it as imperative languages. Okay, we'll talk about these things later on in the course structure. I'm not going much about this. Okay. Similarly, object-oriented languages. What do you mean by object-oriented language? Object-oriented in the sense, the procedure. For example, in this case, imperative language, procedural language, just like a C language. Okay, we have some C language features inside this JavaScript, right? Imperative language is nothing but something like they have properties of procedure-oriented language. Just like a C syntax, we use if-else conditions, we use for loops so that we can change the state of the program each and every time. Use functions, something like that. And object-oriented programming. Of course, people found some disadvantages in the procedure-oriented languages. Okay, of course, those things will be discussed in the later on in the advanced JavaScript. Okay, in the course structure itself. Okay, right. In order to avoid such kind of problems related to this procedure-oriented language, we go for object-oriented languages. Okay, we are thinking everything in terms of objects. Okay, we are trying to solve. This is top to bottom approach. In software engineering, we call it as top to bottom approach. That means we are taking a big complex program, a big problem, and we are going to divide the problem into sub-modules, sub-tasks, I can say. Okay, so each and every task we call it is a function generally. Okay, so that is what you call a procedure-oriented language, top to bottom approach. We are taking a big problem and we are dividing into small piece. That is called top to bottom approach. Whereas in object-oriented language, it is called bottom to top approach. We are constructing the bottom pieces already, which are going to be used to solve, which are going to solve the problems in the future. Okay, so we are ready-madely creating the things what we required for the software development. Okay, that is why you can find a lot of classes in Java and JavaScript. Okay, ready-made things you can find. So we follow in object-oriented language. We follow bottom to top approach. We take small things, and we are going by clubbing those small things, and we are going to solve a big problem. We start from the small piece, and we are going to solve it. Whereas in procedure-oriented language, we start from the complex one, or the big problem itself, and we are going to solve from the big problem to we are going to solve in that direction. Okay, so that is called object-oriented language. We'll talk about those things later on, and this is the one of the main usage I can say. uh, along with this object oriented language, we use some design patterns. Okay, by using those things, AngularJS was constructed. AngularJS has been constructed from the object oriented nature of the JavaScript. Okay, of course most of the JS frameworks. And we have functional language. Functional language in the sense we are giving the most priority to the functions, not for the objects. That is why, what do you call them? In JavaScript, we write everything in terms of functions, right? We can find a lot of functions. We will give the priority to the functions. Got it? So that is called functional programming. So a lot of functional programmings are there, programming languages are there. Um, Out of that, JavaScript is one. Okay. From this functional programming language, I'll talk about this one. What is the functional programming language? What is the immutable data in functional programming language? All these things. Here, object-oriented languages, we talk about the mutable data. What is the mutable data? All these things we'll talk. In this case, we'll talk about we are going to avoid states. Okay, we are going to avoid mutable data. Okay, we use immutable data. All these things, of course, a lot of things are there. We'll talk about this one. From this behavior of the JavaScript, React.js was constructed. Functional behavior of your JavaScript language. React.js is a framework that was constructed. Got it? Hope you understand this one. I'll talk about a lot of things related to this multi-paradigm later on in the course structure itself. Okay, don't worry. We have a lot of discussion regarding this one, right? So that is what actually the JavaScript is. And remember, JavaScript is not Java. Java and JavaScript is completely different. Java and JavaScript is completely different. Java is a classical object-oriented language. JavaScript is a prototypal object-oriented language. And JavaScript has a scripting language. It has a dynamic nature. It is an interpreted language. Of course, Java is also interpreted language, something like that. And JavaScript is going to be executed client side and server side, but which is not with respect to the Java. Okay, so both are different. Okay, let's talk about some history. I forgot the year actually. The 19. Sorry about this. JavaScript. Yeah, 1996, I think. Thank you, Sajjan. Okay, so JavaScript was developed in the year 1996 by um, Renden Each. He's a computer scientist at Netscape company. Netscape Navigator is one of the most popular browser in the past. Okay, that has been, I think, that has been changed to Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so he is a computer scientist who developed the JavaScript in 1996 in at Netscape. Netscape. Okay, Netscape is like an organization. Okay, uh, let me check this one. Let's look after this one. Yeah, yeah. Random age. Yeah, it's a Netscape one. Okay. So what happened is, see, when we developed a language, it's to be standardized. Why? Because many people in the world want to be used it, want to be used, right? So it's to be standardized. So that's why Netscape has submitted ways to where European Computer Manufacturer Association. I can call this as ECMA, ECMA. Okay. So in order to standardize the JavaScript language, the Netscape company has submitted the JS language to European Computer Manufacturer Association. Okay, that is why sometimes you hear JavaScript as ECMAScript. Some people call some people use ECMAScript and some people use JavaScript. It's some wide thing and it always confuses me also. Okay, ECMAScript is a standard actually. It's not a language. It is the standards given to the JavaScript. Okay, so uh, you know when you find something like ECMA, ES, some people ECS 5 something like that. Mostly we use ES5 standards. Okay, ES6 standards, something like that. So these are called standards of the JavaScript, not the versions. Standard versions. Okay, for each standard we have plenty of versions of JavaScript will be there that will be deferred with respect to the vendor. Okay, so we are going to learn most of the ES5 completely, not most of them completely. We are going to learn the ES5 standards of JavaScript in this course structure, and we are going to look after some features of ES6 also. Why? Because not all browsers are currently supporting this ES6 features. Okay, so just go for this one. EC ES6. Yeah, I'll show that one. See, Sachin, you can see here, we can find some arrow functions. Okay, that was not there in ES5. Classes, we don't have a class keyword in ES5, right? But we can write classes here, just like Java. Even though it's a prototypal object-oriented language, we are able to write. It has been allowed to create some classes. Okay, I'll talk about these things later on. And we have a templating strings, and we find some enhanced objects, destructing, let keyword, and constant keyword. Okay, and a new type of data type like symbol, something like that. These are the new kind of features that has been evolved in this particular ES6. Okay, whereas these kind of things are not there in ES5. Okay, but most of the ES5 features are very popular, and now people are using some popular things in ES6 like template strings, classes, arrow functions. Nowadays they are using, but not all browsers are able to understand these type of features. Okay, still the browser need to be standardized. Okay, not all browsers is supporting. If browser is not supporting, our application won't run, right? So you can say these are the different type of features that you can find related to ES6. Okay, I'll show some of these things inside our code structure. Don't worry. Okay, so that you can place ES6 features also in your resume. Okay, that will be fine. That is what is called ECS or EC5 ECMAScript. Hope you understand this one. What is an ECMA? What is an JavaScript, right? Any doubts regarding this? So by this, I'm going to stop the tutorial here. I'll go further for the next videos. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.